You mutter under your breath as you search for your keys. You narrate your grocery list out loud in an empty kitchen. You argue with someone who isn't there, rehearsing what you should have said an hour ago. You've done this today, maybe more than once, and you probably felt a little embarrassed about it, like something was slightly wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger. Talking to yourself isn't a glitch in your brain. It's one of the oldest tools your species ever built. Long before writing, before language was even fully formed, your ancestors were already doing something close to this. The habit never left. It just went quiet, moved inside your skull, and started calling itself thinking. Here's what most people get wrong. They assume silent thought and spoken thought are separate processes. One private, one public. One normal, one strange. But researchers who study inner speech have found something surprising. The voice in your head and the voice that slips out when you're alone are produced by nearly the same neural machinery. Psychologist Charles Fernyhough, who studies inner speech at Durham University, describes silent self-talk as speech that never quite makes it to your lips. It's the same system, running at a lower volume. So why does that voice sometimes leak out into open air? Watch a 5-year-old playing alone with blocks. They'll say no, this one goes here, or oh, it's falling. Developmental psychologist Lev Vygotsky noticed this pattern nearly a century ago. He called it private speech and argued it wasn't random chatter. It was a child thinking out loud, building thoughts by narrating them. Vygotsky believed this outer voice eventually folds inward. Around age 7, most children stop narrating aloud and start narrating silently. The habit doesn't vanish. It goes underground. So every time you talk to yourself as an adult, you're not being childish. You're doing something your brain never fully packed away. Under stress or a hard task, the inner voice pushes back into the open. Your brain, under load, reaches for the version of thinking that worked first. Think about the last time you talked to yourself. Was it during something easy or something hard? Almost always the harder, tougher task. A 2011 study by psychologists Gary Lupien and Daniel Swingley found that people who said an object's name out loud while searching for it found it faster than people who searched silently. The voice wasn't decoration. It sharpened attention in real time. This forces a bigger question, one that flips the usual story of language on its head. What if language wasn't built for talking to others first? What if it was built for talking to yourself, for organizing your own actions in real time, and communicating with others came later, almost as a side effect of a system that was already running internally? A hunter tracking prey through dense brush benefits from muttering a plan. Go left. Wait. Now. It's not a message to anyone else. It's a message to a future version of yourself, seconds ahead, keeping your actions on track. Some researchers argue this kind of self-directed vocalization may have been a stepping stone toward full language, not an afterthought of it. Now picture that same exact hunter today, except now it's you, in a parking garage, saying, okay, where did I park to nobody? Same ancient mechanism, just a slightly different prey. Here's the twist. Talking to yourself isn't a sign of a struggling mind. Often it's a sign of a mind actively solving something in real time. Researchers Alexa Tullett and Michael Inslick studied self-talk and self-control, finding that instructing yourself verbally, even silently, helps regulate behavior during effortful tasks far better than staying wordless. The voice works like scaffolding, holding a thought steady long enough for you to act on it before it slips away. This explains something you've noticed without naming it. When you're overwhelmed, the talking gets more frequent, spilling further out of your head. That's not composure breaking down. That's your oldest cognitive tool switching on because the silent version isn't providing enough traction anymore. There's a stranger layer underneath. When you talk to yourself in the third person, you can do this instead of I can do this, something measurable changes. Psychologist Ethan Kross found that this distance self-talk creates a small but real psychological gap, making it easier to regulate emotions under stress, almost like briefly coaching yourself rather than being trapped inside the panic alone. So what does this mean about the boundary between you and the voice in your head, the one that never seems to fully stop talking? It means the boundary is thinner than it feels. Every time you talk to yourself, you briefly split into two roles: a speaker and a listener, an instructor and the one being instructed. Fernyhough describes inner speech as carrying a dialogic quality, an internalized conversation between parts of the self. You ask yourself a question and answer it. You scold yourself and reassure yourself, sometimes in the same sentence. You are, in a real sense, occasionally two people, taking turns, using the same mouth. This isn't evidence of anything broken. It's evidence of a deeply social species that never stopped treating itself as an audience. Humans evolved as intensely social creatures, dependent on group cooperation to survive in ways almost no other species has matched, and communication wasn't a luxury for that survival. It was infrastructure. So when you're alone, your brain doesn't fully believe you're alone. It reaches for the tools built for company, because for most of human history, true solitude was rare and often dangerous. Which reframes something you probably do without thinking. The next time you catch yourself narrating your own actions or coaching yourself through something hard under your breath, you're not slipping, and you're certainly not regressing into childhood. You're running one of the most ancient, effective systems your species ever built for staying focused, staying regulated, and staying on task, borrowed from a time when a hunter needed to talk their own body through danger, one whispered instruction at a time. So tonight, alone in your kitchen, muttering about where you put your phone, remember what's actually happening. It's not a strange little habit. It's a hunter, seconds ahead of themselves, still trying to make it home.